Okay, this is the final and 10th count under the first section of RICO 1961, section 4 counts. I've noticed that shift change in the San Francisco YouTube Center has occurred, as I've noticed that certain videos get held back during processing. That's most likely YouTube employees who are randomly selecting videos to check for compliance, and a Mormon must have taken over the shift. Alright, because I've had problems on my other channel with the Mormon working at YouTube over the weekends, so not too cool during those times, as I had to wait for a specific time of the day and week when I could upload videos critical about the church. But this is a lawsuit. This is obstruction for those of you who are scanning my videos for approval, and you can't touch this. How is it? Bobby, can't remember his name. Can't touch this. Alright, I'm noticing people are going back to the first count, which was neglected for a while. The most likely scenario is that people watch one and for the most part don't bother to go watch the whole series, and they're just looky-loos. I'm getting the occasional like, but the numbers are poor. So maybe it's because people are going back to the Mormon church. Guys, seriously? Because the Super Bowl's not for a few more hours, and I promise I'll stop at 3:30ish. Yeah, these are the RICO that have to do with the church's fraudulent authority. These 10 counts. That's why I started with this section from RICO, and then I later go into RICO generally, and that's where I get into the tithing protection racket and the pyramid scam of missionary recruitment under that section. The next count we'll be doing will be treason. So yeah, the church has committed numerous amounts of crimes against me, and so the crimes committed against everyone, just the lawsuit would be massive. Oh well. Like I said, I will be going in tomorrow morning because the judge failed to respond to the motion of summary judgment, because the judge failed to respond to the motion for recusal, because the judge failed to respond to the second motion for service of process, when it was revealed to the judge that the church had attempted to conceal the fact that they had been paying the person responsible for my disappearance for 6 years back in 2008. And after I had notified the judge that the church had been paying such person, and so the refusal to respond is a clear indicator that they're assisting the defendant, and therefore I was able to conclude that their failure to respond was complicity, as well as what's the other C word? They are admitting guilt, and so that's why I gave them the summary judgment, and even put in there the deadline, just in case they forgot. And the deadline came and went at midnight this morning, or Saturday morning, and so that's why I can go in Monday and do what's called an entry of default, where the court clerk will make note of the fact in the file, and it means concede. That's it. The judge has conceded the case to me. And entry of default means that because the defendant has failed to appear, in this case respond, the judge, in fact, because the judge has been acting on behalf of the defense counsel, and the defendant will not be permitted to contest whether he or she is liable to the plaintiff, which means they can't appeal. The church cannot appeal. Judge First has taken it upon herself to be the defense counsel for the church by refusing to respond, and has consented to my motions as a result of her failure to respond, and therefore Monday morning it's going to be official. The court clerk will put in the entry of default of the failure to respond, and that's it. Game, set, and match. And the church cannot say, hey, no, the judge is not our defense counsel. Sorry, judge usurped your defense counsel by failing to respond, and therefore you don't get an appeal. And the judge has been terminated already. And after she got terminated, they assigned me to her case, when they should be lifting her caseload that looks like it'll extend beyond her final date of service. And instead they gave her a new assignment, me. So bad news. Alright, let's get to count 10 for you, as I've already wasted the 8 minutes on this. In 1967, the New York Metropolitan Museum negotiated the giving of the papyri bought by Joseph Smith Jr., which he used to make the Book of Abraham. CEO David O. McKay passed the papyri to Hugh Nibley at BYU, instead of finishing where Joseph left off. See, I previously said they're not translators. And I was exposing that they were translators when I came to them and said, hey, I deciphered Paleo-Hebrew. Oops, I didn't know. Back then, anyway. The world's Egyptologists got to examine the papyri and, of course, couldn't find the Hebrew name Abraham on the Egyptian language papyri. Egyptian language papyri. When I approached the defendant back in 1998 with my Paleo-Hebrew decipherment, the defendant blacklisted me to keep their secret of not being translators, and in 2008 retaliated by ordering my disappearance, and paid off the person who had succeeded in having me disappeared, and I notified the judge of that on the hearing on 1st of November, and filed the lawsuit as I did in the nature of the case, and we'll put in the war crimes section, and then the church had leaked the information, so they are paying attention. They are Big Brother. They know that I've got this lawsuit going on, and they're paying attention to it. Somebody leaked it from the court. And they tried to cover it up by canceling or just not having the person advertise it anymore that they were getting paid by the church. And so, yeah, big trouble here.